Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair ragale ni hao chunashumme washmale. Ohaya Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Halishma chatore, ahlan masar, marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swabi, ab bhalli kare aya. Hosh galde nanayo sayo, khuya mora, chivato, chi hal jod, kalimera khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. We hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for introducing me. I hope you also feeling well and get well soon, alhamdulillah. Because yesterday you were not feeling well.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, now, I mean, Allah has given you shifa.
Alhamdulillah, shukr alhamdulillah for that as well. But you know, with that, I would certainly want to kind of give away a message for each and every individual who's out there. That, you know, that one moment which you feel that you're not feeling absolutely well, that you're not feeling 100%, please make sure that you go to the doctor right away. Please make sure that you do not delay. This is something which is very essential. It can be something really serious, but why not get it checked in the first place and then kind of have those assumptions and sort it out, you know. So for people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that while you have this opportunity, while you have this chance, make sure that you do not sleep over it, you do not rest at home. I've seen multiple cases where unfortunately people say, yes, I'm going to be fine, let me sleep. And unfortunately, you know, it wasn't really very well for them as well. So every time you feel that you're not feeling 100%, rush to the doctor right away. So whatever it may be, it can be sorted well in time. But with that, I think, Haja, I have a very important question for you. Now, imagine that, you know, that the way we work over here in our country, you know, anytime you can get a call from work, right? You know, so may it be at 12 in the night, may it be at 12 in the morning, whether you're working, whether you're having a day off, whether you're on vacations, you know, your boss will give you a call whenever he or she will feel like. What do you think about it? Do you think that this is right for anybody to call or your employer to call whenever, you know, they feel like it?
I think that depends on the intensity and obviously the nature of your job. So for example, I think corporate sector is very, very gruesome and it's very cruel when it comes to employing their employees because they want the maximum out of your employees. And there's a lot of criticism that, you know, the top bosses are earning money and the people who are under them who are working, they are just, you know, letting their blood and the sweat sweating out aloud. But when it comes to other jobs, for example, the government or the semi-government, so there is a laxity there. But yes, generally in the West there is general a culture because they have a dwindling young population and they just want to entice more young people towards their workplaces. So they are offering a lot of enticements and incentives in the first place, so as to make sure that they rope them in and make sure that they are working at their full capacity and they are facilitating them a lot. But I do believe that you have some news in this connection to share, right?
Exactly, I do. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share a picture with you. Just take a good look, and I think it's going to make everybody it's probably going to give you a smile as well. So imagine that there's this law which has been, or bill which has been moved in San Francisco Assembly by an assemblyman named Matt Henney, who aims to get, like, probably grant employees in California the right to ignore work calls. Now imagine for you to be able to ignore work calls, not just that, because, you know, this law is forthcoming from Australia, where obviously outside work hours, the boss or anybody else or any employer cannot call you, and if he or she calls, and if the employee is going to go complain, they will be fined $100. Wow, you know, it's probably somewhat around what 30,000 rupees for us over here. I think everybody's going to be having fun as well. And then, you know, not just that. Imagine that the boss, knowing that he can be fined $100, is something which is really interesting, which will make them think.
But that's a proposed law, right? So we will see that if it
but in California, it's a proposed law, but in Australia, it's a law which is in practice. So I think that's what they're trying to do over there. I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, whether people will be able to work or not, but I believe that, you know, that the bosses will certainly know when to call and when not to call.
And so that's a very interesting debate, because in the West, there's especially with the welfare state, so there's generally this debate that because of the government's incentive of giving the unemployed people $1,200 or $1,000 or whatever the proposed amount is, that is making the people very lazy there, and they're not ready to work because they're already getting the incentives from there. So in general in Europe, so there's generally this debate that this should be reduced or this should be abandoned completely, because that is just incentivizing and making them very lax and lazy in terms of working, and that is not exactly the benefit that was proposed, especially when the concept of the welfare state was proposed in the first place. But we will save that debate for some other day.
But this is why I wanted to add over
Right.
here that that obviously this can only apply where employees are working 100%. For example, if you have a 9 to 5 job, in 9 to 5 job you're not even attending calls from your friends, your home, or whatever it may probably be, and that you dedicated and you make sure that that you're going to give them their 100%. So I think that's something where we really need to strike a balance. Not everybody can have a great day every single day as well. So I mean, I don't know what to do. So probably, but for bosses, I think this is a question for them to ask for themselves or by themselves, and they certainly can answer it themselves as well, that whether they should be calling people most of the time outside work hours or not. And most of the times, do you know what? It's not just that as well. I think it kind of somewhere highlights the harassment bit of it as well, where most of the female employees are being called by their bosses to ask for favors as well.
That's very true, and obviously we will save the debate for some other day, because corporate sector is very grueling, not just in Pakistan but across the world. But now, Shahzad, let's move on to one of the important topic or important area of expertise in which Pakistan requires a lot of focus and attention, and that is the education sector. Because obviously when we are talking about working, it is the education that paves the way towards the education. So in Pakistan, there are 22.8 million children that are out of school, which is a very staggering number. And out of that, 5 to 16 aged children, that is 44% of the total population, they're not going to the school. That is according to the UNICEF of the Pakistan. And obviously there are lots of disparities based on the gender, because women or the girl children, they are preferred to be kept in their houses rather than the working outside.
Exactly.
Or maybe getting the education outside, because men or boys are preferred over that. They are considered to be the bread earners in the first place.
That's true, and we have seen that as well. And imagine that when you do not educate yourself, when you do not educate the entire population, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of problems. For example, we were speaking about how bosses can actually call you out, out of work hours. Now let's talk about those illnesses and diseases which actually still exist within our own society, and we really need to make sure that there's more awareness about it. When we speak about the health sector, when we speak about being fit, ladies and gentlemen, today actually happens to be one of the most important days as well, and that too about the bleeding disorders. Today happens to be the Hemophilia Day, ladies and gentlemen, and we certainly education is really very important for us to kind of be very aware of what's going on in the world and how so many people are actually suffering from it. And so Hemophilia Day is all about bleeding disorders, and I've mentioned the theme for this year is equitable access for all, recognizing all bleeding disorders. Most of the times, this is where we started our conversation from, that people certainly have no idea. People will sleep over it, but to make sure that the people out there is more aware, I guess it's our responsibility and the responsibility of our education sector, with which, I'm going to connect, how, there are 20 million children out of school. We have stated the figures from United Nations International Children Education Fund, and what can be done. True. Now, there are people who are doing quite a lot in that, in this particular context. We have such a hero over here, who's actually doing something really wonderful. Now, imagine that if you've never been to school and all of a sudden, you're 8 years old or 9 years old, they take you in. What they do is that they set your foundation till grade 4, and then they allow you to be suitable student for any government school or college, and you can certainly have that dream fulfilled of getting educated. I think that's something, ladies and gentlemen, which Fariza is actually being nibhaufied by Fariza as well. So there's an entire concept. This lady, from 2016 with her friends, started this initiative with the name of Fariza, and we will be in conversation with her. How is she educating the future of Pakistan is something we will be talking about. So we're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, that we have been joined by somebody who happens to be the executive director at Fariza. She is Sarish Khan Sadozai. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me to your program to talk about the work that we're doing with Fariza. I'm actually feeling really good. I'm really excited for coming to your show and talking about it.
Obviously, let's kickstart the conversation. So Shahzad has alluded to the concept behind the Fariza. So please let us know, as an audience, as a lay person, what is this project all about, and what future projects do you have in the mind?
So Fariza basically started when I was, like 25, I think, years old, and it wasn't something that, now looking back, it wasn't something that we had planned. It started when, my mother and I were discussing what to do with that year's zakat. money. And I told my mother that I think we should invest in, education of some underprivileged children, and and that is going to lead social change. So we started educating from 3 children in 2016, and now we have grown to, in like this year, we have grown to around 220 students, and we still having admissions come in. So you can say that if for a lay person, Fariza is sort of like a welfare school for underprivileged children, impoverished children of Kotha Kala in Rawalpindi.
But Ms. Serish, with the children, especially you're focusing on the underprivileged and marginalized communities.
Right.
So you see that the people here, you have to change their mindset a lot, because they have so many kids and they want those kids to go and earn the money and contribute towards the bread earner of the household, right? So, and when you ask them to invest the education of the children, so you will face a resistance, because then you are cutting their supply of the money, right? And most parents are not very receptive about this entire idea. So do you have to face this challenge of making that awareness among the parents that you need to send your kids to the school, because that is a long-term investment, right? Rather than the short-term investing on giving them some work, or making them go to some workshop or some other technical institution where they can earn money and contribute towards their household income, right? So how do you face it?
Right. I would have to elaborate this area that I'm actually working in.
Right.
So basically, Kotha Kala is situated between, DHA Phase 1 on one side, and Morga and New Lalazar on the other side, right? So it is sort of like a cheaper area to reside, and so many of the parents which are part of Fariza family, their children come to Fariza. They are those parents who actually work as house helpers or cleaners in nearby posh localities, right? And they have been residing here. And I could say with like clarity that 80% of the kids or 85% of the kids that are coming to Fariza were not working, basically, because that's not the trend there. They were actually on the streets playing while their parents were actually working on somebody else's places. So it's not something that I had to dig, because my mom and like my dad had a clinic there for 30 years and everything, so I was very familiar with the locality and the community. I could just see kids actually playing outside, and I can this question that you asked, did I face difficulty in convincing them? To be really honest, when I started it, initially I had some issues, but when we had like a proper, like SOPs, we were following proper SOPs. We made, we provided them uniform, and we had like exam system that, these parents could understand. I still remember this incident. I remember this, when we were living in, DHA, and one of the house help of some neighboring houses, I asked her, why aren't your kids going to school? And they said that, I don't have the means. And I told them, why don't you send them to Fariza? I think at that point, Fariza was around 2 or 3 years old. And she said she came to Fariza, and then when she later spoke to me, she told me that because in Fariza well, she didn't see exactly, but she basically said that because there isn't computers in the school, and because of which I am going to enroll her in some other school with the help of my Baji. So I realized these parents, even though they are not educated, they understand what school is, because in houses that they're actually working, they understand when they're helping these there's awareness there's awareness what school is.
And how do you distinguish? Now, for example, the question which was actually proposed by Hajra, I think we really need to because every time we come around this question, we certainly do not get an answer which kind of suffices our heart, because I don't believe that all those children who are out there, or all those parents who are out there, would certainly want their child to go beg and get money home as well. There might be parents who, because of their financial constraints, might not be able to send their child to a school. So how do you kind of distinguish in between the population? For example, out of 100 people, how many people do you think are willing to send their children to school, but because of the financial constraints, they can do that?
I can safely say around for the kids around the age of less than 12 years old, 95% of the parents want
their
to send
child to
their
go to
kids to school. And I'll tell you this, you know, when I started Fariza, when I was 5, I was doing it without even thinking about it. Now when I have time to reflect back, I can, you know, have my own analysis. But I'll tell you this, you know, like because I'm a lecturer at a government college,
Yeah.
and I teach at, you know, Government Associate College in Remthabad, and I was seeing, and I was posted there since 2020, and I was seeing that there were not, when I was going to college, I saw many kids were out in the street,
Right,
just like in Kota Kala. And this area, Dhok Munshi, is also like, you know, Gharibabad. So, you know, it's the larger area. I could see a lot of kids not going to school. So what I did was, I went to the government school, you know, like near our college, and I spoke to the principal over there, and he said, because these kids do not have bay form, you know, it's hard for us to actually enroll these kids to school. And also he said, you know, I think this initiative of sending these, you know, like street kids to school, somebody else did it, but they actually failed. So he seemed, you know, like concerned about it, reluctant and
Not
concerned
even
about
concerned,
it.
because, you know, imagine, I don't think that, you know, for you know, primary education, you know, there's so much requirement of a bay form to be there. I think
No,
rather,
there is actually,
yeah.
there is. He even told me, you know, I can show you a long form,
I mean, at least they
admission
can
form.
enroll the child, and then later on the bay form can come
I think
in.
yes, this suggestion, I think government needs to work something about it. I do think this was the problem in government school in Morga, because of which Fariza opened. I could not enroll these kids in government school. So I was telling you
Yeah.
this thing, you know, in Dhok Munshi, when I went to these, because near our college there were around 10 to 12 you know, rooms, meaning homes of people whose kids were not going to school, and I could see them playing. I went to them. I took my you know, like guard of college, and I went to these houses, because hardly it was 2-3 minutes on walking distance, and I asked them, you know, if I want to send your, you know, if I educate your kids, would you be willing to educate them?
Yeah.
All of them said yes, for sure. And okay, I thought that they're just saying it because a college, a lecturer walked into their homes. But you know what happened? After that, I was trying to make arrangements how to entertain these, you know, kids. I was even thinking of asking my principal of college if she can actually spare a room so that I can, you know, so I was trying to work out what to do about it. You know, after 4 or 5 days, even after 3 days, those kids and those parents started coming to government college gate, and they started asking, so wo baji ne jo kaha tha, you know, like that, you know. So you know, and I tell you this, one mother was, and she was Pashtun, and she had this like whole habaya, you know, her face was covered and everything. She came 3 times to me. And she said, and she even showed me report cards of these kids who were studying in private school. And I asked them, if you're actually teaching them in private school, then why are you, you know, like now interested in this? She said that because we do not have bay form, we cannot educate them in like government school. And now because of the inflation, I cannot now afford to send these 3 kids.
So why don't they have bay forms? I think that's another important question. Is it because they never go to Nadra and don't get it made, or is it some other reason?
So basically, what I've understood in my 8 years is most of these parents are migrants.
Okay.
So they come from like, you know, South Punjab and Punjab, in the middle heartland of Punjab, and they come to these, you know, urban
for
centers.
them to go back and then get
For
it
them
done.
to go back, for them to actually track back, you know, because most of these probably deliveries happen in homes. So how do you get to register in
First
UC,
the birth certificate, then
the
yes.
birth certificate, then the Nadra Bay form and things like that. But you know what I've noticed is, and I think this is why I would strongly suggest the government, who is interested, right, in doing something about it, is that we do not need new initiatives. We need more government schools, and we need a new method of enrolling these kids to government school. So we can have, like, you know, entertain Bay form from 5th grade onwards. Let's do that, because let's allow these kids to come to school. This is what we do at Fariza. I do not ask them for any papers, and then when they come to and then they, you know, study with us for 8 years, you know, during some time they are able to make
and then how do you prepare them, you know, so let's come down to, you know, what Fariza does to polish them and give them a skill set with which they can actually continue their education. So now, for example, you went to them, you know, to the
Enroll
parents,
them.
you enroll them. Now, what sort of studies are they going to be indulged in? You know, is it more of play? Is it more of basic learning? Is it more of a skill set? So how do you make sure? Because not just that, you know, you happen to be a magnificent educationist because of the fact that you've been to Indiana, USA for your BS. Not just that, you went to National Defense University for your MPhil. So you particularly know what you're doing. So please tell us, or our audiences as well, that, you know, whether how do you take them around on that roller coaster ride? Hey, you know what? It's going to be fun. Come on, join school. Fariza today.
So I'll tell you that, you know, because my expertise is in political science
Yep, I
per
know.
se, and you know, I have learnt how to run a school as I go, and the sense I'm going to tell you what sense I have been using in order to know what to do and not. Firstly, obviously, because of my own education, we have been, you know, God bless, right? So I've been blessed by my parents that, you know, we have been able to get good education, and we have actually been able to know what to do in terms of, you know, change in the society and things like that. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that the reason I'm able to run Fariza with the you know, the confidence that I can is because at DePaul University, where I was, you know, I went on a scholarship. I was, you know, part of many student associations, and because of that, we had to play a lot of roles. Like for MSA, Muslim Student Association, at that point I was vice president, so we had to like organize a lot of events. We had to invite, you know, guests. So I knew what collaborations are, how to go about running a team, and you know, how to be a part of a team. So with Fariza, what we do is we enroll these kids to school. We have this, you know, admission process that you have to go through. Our coordinator, Ms. Fozia, she actually takes the test of these kids to understand what sort of knowledge they have. I do not discriminate regarding the age of a kid. If a kid is around 8-9 years old and his, you know, his or her knowledge is pertinent to like nursery, they are going to sit in nursery.
And how
so,
do you ascertain that?
Because of the exam, you know, so I'm sure my coordinator, they take the test of like write alphabets. Okay, what is this cat? Can you pronounce it? What is this sentence? Can you understand? So, you know, you can understand, you know, like this, what's knowledge that the
So it's
kid
like
is
sorting
standing.
an apple according to the size, right?
Right,
Okay,
right.
you know, so you know
Not
ABC.
according to the age, according to the size. And this
Exactly.
is also the problem that comes in government school. You know, yesterday I was discussing with that government school. I was telling teachers about, you know, that I'm opening a school in Dhok Munshi, and they said, you know, I wish we knew this because we are undergoing admission process. I wish we knew this because a kid came who was 8-9 years old and he did not know how to write alphabets. How can I make them sit in nursery? So this thing we do not have a problem of. So what we do is after enrolling them, we put them in you know, according to the class that they should be enrolled in, and then we educate them as if any parent would be educating their child in any you know, public or private schools. So you know, we do give them in Fariza school. We have like you know, I've you know, tried, my friends and I tried to provide them the best education with the best resources and books. And also
so the books and everything is for free.
Yes, we keep all the books at Fariza. Some of the kids that we trust that they're not going to like tear the copies and books away, we kind of give them for home. So over the years we have like developed trust with certain parents, and we give them even for homes. And you know, we give them like, you know, personalized attention for pre-playgroup and playgroup. We emphasize playful learning. I've made sure that our teachers have like Montessori sort of you know, like a certification from Pakistan Montessori Council. We even like paid for their you know, like Montessori training and everything. So Fariza is a place which I believe what I would have wanted my kids to actually the environment that I
also-
wanted my kids to have. I have tried, having that environment at Fariza.
Right. So, Ms. Serish, now also reflect, because since you're an educationist, you have an expertise in this area and a vast expertise, I would say. So now, traditionally, the education system in which Shehzad and I went to, so that was a very teacher-centric education system, right? So teacher was the sole authority, and we do not have to question it because that was also considered to be ethically wrong, right? So you cannot question your elders, right? That was something that was taught to us, right?
Till today.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But now I see that paradigm is changing a lot, right? So students are something, or teacher-student learning or interaction is considered to be a two-way learning process, right? So do you have this very strict traditional paradigm in the Fariza school, or you are focusing more on imparting the education or imparting the skills? Because after, I think, 10 years, 20 years, the education that we are learning there, it's going to be redundant in the first place, because there's so much technology which is coming in. And I think the critical thinking skills are focused a lot, especially in the evolving Western education system. So let's focus on that and let's talk about that.
I really love your question, because my understanding is that kids should be able to interact with teachers. This is the sort of model that I studied at DePauw University. We had like around 20 to 25 sort of like a student discussion sort of classes, where there was professor who would sit on in the middle of the room, and we would have like chairs around the professor, and we would be interacting about the readings and everything. This is what I've tried instilling at Fariza. My teachers know that because I am working at Fariza voluntarily, I do not have any sort of interest, financial interest associated with Fariza, because of which I am, these kids that are studying in Fariza, they are my kids, right? So treat them as if you're going to treat my kids, right? So you're not going to be strict on them. There is no acceptance and no acceptability of physical punishment. I have over 8 years, I have actually, fired around 4 to 5 teachers. The moment I learned that any of a child, when new teachers come in, even we tell them rules, but sometimes some people do not abide it. And the moment I got to know it, and our kids are so much comfortable in telling us that, that they come up to my coordinators, they come up to the administration, they come up to me and tell me that. Our parents actually tell us,
and I believe that, this needs to be done as well, but we certainly need to appreciate the efforts that you have undertaken, for the education of the underprivileged, for the people who, for, those children who are orphans as well, for the domestic staff, whose children, cannot go or probably afford to go to school as well. So congratulations, first of all, for doing so much for the future generations of the country. And it was wonderful to have you over here, and we are all prayers. And if there's any other initiative that you're going to undertake, please do let us know. And you're more than welcome on our show as well. But thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
It was very amazing to have you, Miss Serish Khan Sadozai, to be over here and to talk about how you're actually kind of making sure that Fariza is going to be that umbrella for all of those children who've been out of school, but not really now, ladies and gentlemen, because we do have people like Madam over here. And with that, we're actually going to head out towards a short break. There's more on awareness and education in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome back. And before going on to the break, obviously Shehzad was mentioned that we are going to talk about the awareness and the education, and also Shehzad mentioned that it is the World Hemophilia Day, right? And we also need to talk about it because the European family, the royal family, is known to have this particular trait in them, and particularly the Russian royal family, because their only surviving son that was later killed had also hemophilia, and that is why one of the reasons the Russian Revolution take place was this particular trait and the genes. But right, we need to talk about it, and we need to shed the light on why we need to observe it. And apart from that, there's a very interesting topic that we would like to develop a conversation further, that is on this new trend of the e-cigarettes, the vapes, and obviously there's generally a discussion in the conversation that smoking is not good for health. It is injurious for health, and there are lots of negative effects that have been documented in the researches, in the academia, in the general pop culture, and we would like to further delve into it, especially when it comes to comparison between the e-cigarettes and the cigarettes, because nowadays there is every version of e out there. So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by a consultant interventional cardiologist from Maruf International Hospital. She happens to be Dr. Tahira Sadiq. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much, Dr. Saiba, for coming to our show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you. I'm glad that I'm here today to discuss a very important topic. And this topic is related to the cardiovascular health in our young generation. So it is very important.
Exactly, and in addition to this, I certainly would want to kind of appreciate the services that Maruf International Hospital has been offering. Every now and then, whenever we need a consultant or somebody who actually needs to speak about such a topic, they've always been very kind for making sure that they bring their best to us as well. So to kind of build up this conversation, unfortunately, people can have this habit, at a very younger age, at a very later stage as well. Most of the time, it's because of the friends that you roam around with. But since we are talking about the cardiovascular impact, we do know quite a lot about, conventional smoking and what it does to people and heart attacks and, how Pakistani population suffer from such illnesses, hypertension and whatnot. But just, for the awareness of our audiences, can we build up on it as well that, okay, conventional smoking, this is the list of illnesses and diseases which you can get, and then we will move on towards vapes and e-cigarettes so that we can distinguish whether, okay, what are we going to save ourselves from, even though first things first, I think this is a verbal disclaimer, none of them is good, okay? So let's get started now.
Okay, so I would like to introduce that still cardiovascular disease is #1 killer. You have to keep it in mind. And when it comes to the risk factors of the disease, smoking and e-cigarettes both are equal #1 killer.
Yeah.
So nowadays we see that our younger population, they are very much into e-cigarettes and vape, and there is a propaganda that e-cigarettes are safe. I can tell you that e-cigarettes definitely they do not contain the tar element, which is basically the cause of the cancer. So the conventional cigarettes keep you exposing to the cancerous element as well as the cardiovascular disease. But the e-cigarettes contains the nicotine, and when it comes to the heart, it can be as effectively dangerous to your heart as the conventional smoking.
Okay. Exactly, and with that, it's not just the e-cigarettes or, the vapes, these days, we do get these pouches as well. In the olden times, when it was Naswar or something of that sort, which will always have tobacco. But now they present those, nicotine pouches as if, it's not dangerous, it's not smoking and whatnot, but it still contains nicotine, right? Do you think that it's good for your gums, everywhere else?
No, it is definitely not good, and as we were talking that it looks more glamorous. I don't know why it is. It is kind of status symbol,
or well, it's so good and whatnot. I'm very sorry for kind of naming it. Yes.
Yeah, but we need to avoid this, and specifically it is dangerous for our younger generation. Today, I was very concerned that whenever parents come to my clinic and they tell that our son he doesn't smoke, ma'am. When I asked, then why is he in my clinic? Because he is having some sort of, palpitation, anxiety, and then these teenagers, they are very much into it that, no, we just have social anxiety. We just do it to avoid it. But let me tell you that nicotine or the vape, it leads to palpitation, and you consider that this is our symptom of social anxiety, but it is not.
So let's talk about it. So for anybody, who's a smoker, so let's not, differentiate in between them. Let's just label them as a smoker or the user of a nicotine pouch. Unfortunately, if they because people over here are not very aware. We've been talking about it since the beginning of the show. What happens is that we'll sleep over it, or mujhe dard ho rahi hai, main so jata hu, main theek ho jaunga. No, this is a very common phrase. How do you think that people can actually see a red flag by themselves if they smoke any of these things or use the pouches?
Okay, the red flags are if you start getting the palpitations, that is awareness of your own heartbeat. If you start feeling your heartbeat, and if you start feeling that you are more short of breath, even on climbing up one flare of stairs, or you feel that there is atypical chest pains, you are feeling your pain in your left arm or your in your left thumb, you need to see a doctor, and it's better to see a doctor before the actual heart attack comes.
Exactly, and there are multiple tests which we should actually kind of go to the labs and get it done as well. There are people over here in the country does not really have this habit of getting themselves tested. Now imagine that as soon as you walked in with Miss Rubina, the first thing I said was, because just yesterday, I think it's a case that I would love to share with people. I had some severe headache. And I was like, I wasn't even able to speak. So the first thing I've asked her was, if there would be a neurophysician available at the hospital as of now. And the first thing I'm going to do, if I get a chance, I will just go straight there. Now, over here, we do not keep a check, So imagine that the #1 killer over here in our country is diabetes, hypertension. We do know a lot of people in our families. We do know at least one individual in our family who've had stroke. We have had people, with multiple issues. So how do you think that our general well-being can be kept in place by just going to the laboratory and getting yourself tested?
I think we also need to talk upon the aspects or the areas which forces people or younger people in general that why they do go to in the smoking the first place, because like Madam mentioned that social anxiety or depression or all of these factors and smoking might lessen them, right? So as someone, because you're a doctor and I'm pretty sure you're also consulting and coaching your patients out there, right? So how can we make sure that our youth do not go towards this path, because what are the other alternative factors through which they can lessen their depression or social anxiety or whatnot? Because I generally see in the universities it is considered to be a very cool and trending thing, right? Smoking. And especially I find this trend generally getting traction among the younger female population, because they consider it to be a very liberating thing, and it's considered to be a woman empowerment or female liberation, or what are the idiocentric concepts, right? But obviously it's very damaging to your health, right? So how can we create other good alternative sources so that they don't go to the vaping or the smoking in the first place? And how would you coach their parents in the first place?
You said it very rightly, Hajra. This is definitely an increasing trend, and in universities, in students, and these are the status symbol, or these are the trends of the society. So I think media has got a very important role in it by talking about it and by educating our siblings, our students. Everyone at their level can do this education, and media also have to play their role. You have to make them aware that this is not something very good for your health in the long term. And we need to coordinate our younger students in the universities in healthy activities. You need to promote games. Healthy games, everybody should be participating.
I think one of the points, Hajra, over here is that that we mentioned it before as well. It's the glamorization of how smoking is too cool, and you go watch films in the cinemas, you will see a hero going flicking through a cigarette like that, and whatnot. I think at this point of time I would want my producer to kind of cut us as well, so that we can be visible. Yeah, so imagine that whenever you're in films, you see the smart gentleman puffing a cigarette away, and like this, and there's a heroine over there. I think it just kind of gives them a feeling of, yeah, we're going to look so cool. Other than that, I think that the other issues can be lower self-esteem, issues at the house.
I think peer pressure is one of the factor, because whenever I do feel that, especially when you are a young, and I do know 2-3 cases within my family, so they were sitting with their friends, and from friends, they developed this habit of smoking, and most of I think cases are like that, right? Do you feel that there's a gap between, and most of the time when they are doing it, they are doing, the parents are not in the entire loop, right? And they came to know when they become a very habitual smoker in the first place. So do you feel this bonding, there is a lack of bonding between parents and their kids that leads towards this, phenomena? Because if they have a strong bond or trust with the parents, I think they would find some other healthy activities to engage in rather than smoking.
Yes, as the society is moving towards the single home unit, it is also one of the very important factor. Like previously, there used to be a lot of people around a growing kid, but now if both the parents are working, there is a lot of gap, the communication gap, and parents have to find out their ways, to build the communication between their kids, especially when they are growing, when they are in this age group.
Teenage. Yes.
And you need to arrange some get-togethers of your younger kids, so that you can sit with them and you can talk about it.
Right.
Exactly. And in addition to this, what if that the environment at home is that the parents actually smoke too?
True.
Now imagine that this is
again very dangerous environment.
This is too dangerous, and most of the times the parents do not even realize that their kids are passive smoking. Probably, I think their washrooms are used to smoke cigarettes as well. Because over here, if in a Pakistani household, a female or a woman is actually smoking, where do you think she's going to smoke? Because in her own house, it might not be acceptable by her in-laws that, okay, whether you can do it or not. So there's no safe space, so probably the same washroom which the kids are using, the mother's using to imagine that passive smoking. How do you think that it can affect the health of your children? you know, if both the parents are smoking, that within the household?
First thing is that the children definitely are going to learn and take a message from you that it's okay to smoke.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most important, it affects their mental health, and you know, if they are finding that you are doing smoking just to avoid your social problems or you, any for any
Other issue,
matter,
yeah.
any other issue, so they will get a message, yes, this is my way out too. So you do not want to be a model for them while you do smoke, and you cannot, you know, then tell them to quit smoking. So you have to be a good role model and try to avoid this habit if you are having it, and you can always use the rehabilitation services. They are
Does it
available
work?
at the
You know, most of
hospitals.
the times I've seen a lot of people going to the rehabilitation centers, coming back, doing the same thing again.
Yes,
Really?
definitely. Education, counseling, it is very important, and you do not need to go to a rehab center where there are people who basically are encouraging you by giving the nicotine pouch.
Yeah.
So that is
or the
also a
nicotine
bad thing.
patches as well. I mean, what replacement can you recommend? For example, because a lot of people, a lot of times, you know, what happens is that there's going to be Shahzad 1 conversing with Shahzad 2. अच्छा यार आज तो 3 ही पिए एक और पी ले तो कोई मसला नहीं. You know, we kind of convince each other, right?
Yeah.
So how do you think that we can look for an alternate? Because imagine what people do is that they go cold turkey on it. That's not a solution.
That's
Then their mood swings and other problems. If they can kind of stay with it, that's wonderful. But then you really have to taper it down. If you know there's a bad habit, you have to get rid of it. So do you think those nicotine patches are helpful? Do you think something other than that, having more coffee, more tea can actually help? But then that too is dangerous, you know. So what would you say?
We have some medicines which we can offer the patients to. If you are having trouble in your strong willpower or in your gathering, then we can use some medicine. So you need to see your doctor to you know.
So I'm seeing a doctor now. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking. I'm asking the doctor
So
herself.
depending upon the age group,
Okay.
we do offer different kind of medicines. So in middle age group, we use a different set of medicine.
I think
In
that's what
younger
I will
age group,
need.
yeah,
Yeah.
in younger age group, yes, we can use the nicotine pouches in
Okay.
smaller, very small quantity, very small
so
amount.
that they can actually get rid of that
Yes,
as well. I think
it
it's a
can
habit,
be.
ladies and gentlemen, which is bad. The Dr. Saiba has said it as well. But thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you
Saiba,
so much.
for being with us. Thank you so much for representing Maroof International Hospital. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, overconsumption of anything, may it be food, may it be coffee, may it be tea, may it be anything, you know. So imagine whatever we use in life. May it be, you know, you using a perfume. Imagine that, you know, what impact it's going to have in the people around you in the same room. So please make sure that everything that you use, first of all, no cigarettes, no smoking, no drugs, no nothing at all, no alcohol. And other than that, even with food, you really need to make sure that it's more organic, it's more healthier, there's exercise in your life. And that's the way to lead a happy, healthy life. Make sure that you strike a balance. It's always about striking a balance with your family, work, health, exercise, and all of these things.
And I
Once you
think
do
the
that-
best investment is investing in yourself because it is always going to pay you off. So with that, we are going to say Allah Hafiz to you. Until next time, it's a goodbye and good morning.
And nobody else will actually kind of invest on you, so you do it yourself. Bye bye. Good morning.